How did school fail you? It made me a people pleaser who abandoned the subjects that I enjoyed as they would not look as good on my UCAS form. Mostly in English. It did shock my college professors when I genuinely asked, how do you write an essay? What is /how do you do a citation? And what's a Shakespeare? School was only interested in getting me into a job, ultimately. It never nurtured me to realize my own strengths and how I would be happy in the future. Job, job, job. That's all they kept banging on about. School, including college, made it seem like you can get by in life just by doing well on paper. This is not the case. I can write a damned good essay, but I'm broke. The mental health support was appalling. I'm incredibly lucky my friend had this student mentor other than me. She's studying medicine now and told us this story after it happened, telling us she was so glad she didn't have any mental health issues. We all had a student mentor and hers was an old guy who taught maths. Every week we had a set task or topic to talk about, and that week was mental health. My friend goes in and speaks to him. He asks how she is. She says she's okay, and they get talking about mental health issues. He said something along the lines of, I think people just get a little sad sometimes, you know, and continued to completely disregard depression specifically. Meanwhile, my own mentor had mental health issues. I was put in a pair with another girl, but one morning she was sick, so it was just her and I in the meeting. I opened up, and she immediately gave me my own meetings, just so I could speak to her more. She was honestly my savior. She was so understanding and even had similar symptoms to me, some I didn't even realize were anxiety symptoms until she told me she had them, too. She was a chemistry teacher. Mental health wasn't her job, but she was always there when I needed her, and once every 2 weeks, I'd get to have a talk with her. Her husband was my biology teacher, so they'd communicate a lot. The two of them honestly made my A-levels a million times easier. The mental health team, however, only got around to speaking to me in the last few months of my last year, just before my exams, but I had Mr. and Mrs. B there for me when they didn't need to be. The comparison I always like to make is the difference between Miss M, a staff member who worked in the 6th form block, and Mrs. B. Miss M said to me, "Oh, have you lost weight? You look great," after I rapidly lost 3 stone from a severe eating disorder. Miss B said to me, "Oh, your hair looks so healthy, and I'm so glad you're smiling today during my recovery." TL, doctor, we had a teacher who denied the existence of depression, another teacher who complimented me on my weight loss while I was suffering from a severe eating disorder, and the mental health team only saw me in my last year after I'd suffered from anxiety and an eating disorder my entire time at that school, but I had one teacher to help me through it. Expected me to learn from people who shouldn't be teaching. In entrepreneurship, my teacher has exposed how much student knew. I was fortunate enough to know most things. Keep that tab bit in mind. He explained no one practically uses Google Docs for its low design, and showed us how to use Microsoft Word and spreadsheet. Then one day everyone found out they had no idea how to clean. I look at everyone in disbelief that they're learning how to use a sponge and how hot water use different from cold. Ended up not learning how to start a business, but seeing the lack of common knowledge. America actually suffers it a lot. In some countries you can taking cooking classes or any other common knowledge classes. Yet in America people laugh saying we are too bratty to ask. There was even an article that someone corrected its title. Reported my bullies, told them all the bad shit that they did to me. They promised to do something about it, they didn't. Made everything fun not fun, and told me I was stupid. I've spent the last decade rediscovering how cool all the things that school made shitty are. For instance, all sports, all learning, languages, math, art, dancing, socializing, etc, etc. So much time wasted not having fun and learning everything. Also, the message school gave me, directly or indirectly, was that I was fundamentally not an intelligent person, and therefore should maybe not try do things reserved for smarter folks. I carried this for most of my life, until at some point in the last few years I started to figure out that I'm actually not, at least not entirely, an idiot. This has really opened up the possibilities for me, and I feel like I've come alive. I'm chasing med school now, and while it is killer, I'm crushing it. How would I have lived the last 10 years if I hadn't been operating under the assumption that my potential was extremely limited? A lot of people really loved school, but for me, it robbed me of not only the time I spent there, which was a nightmare, and anything of any significance that I learned was from somewhere else or self-taught, but also much of the value of the years afterwards. One of the reasons that I don't want kids is because I don't want to have to put them through that. Wow, okay, so basically let peers treat you like shit, but the moment I retaliated with my words, I get yelled at because I made the little fucker cry. Didn't know how to find a job. Didn't know how to pay taxes. Didn't know what field of study would give me the best chance of success. Didn't know how to buy a house. Didn't know how to rent an apartment. Didn't know how to build a resume. Didn't know that I should get any fucking job I could, just to have something to put on a resume. Didn't know how to interact with people, casually or personally. Don't know where to go for help when shit gets hard. Don't know how to deal with personal crises, like when someone I love fucking dies. But the mitochondria is the motherfucking powerhouse of the goddamned cell. I was bullied for absolutely no reason by the students and ignored by most of the staff, leading me to fight for acceptance and sociability. Thank God a grocery store gave me the skills that I needed to go for a better career, which is cybersecurity. I didn't learn much, in fact I learned nearly 98% of everything online, books or general curiosity. Being a person who is born with autism, Asperger's syndrome to be exact, I have hard times learning certain things like math. However, despite hating it, I'm always calculating everything from currency to distance to temperature and even time. Due to being in tech, I decided that if there was a day that all tech failed, I would need to survive in the natural world. Hence my skills in survival. I know a few languages and plants and animals that I can eat safely. I learned tech, math, history, survival, science and more from general interests. I used any and all tools of learning to my advantage. I didn't need school to learn. In middle school, I got pulled out of honors math since my reading comprehension levels were below average, not a fan of fictional books. As a result, I didn't immediately get to take geometry in high school. My cousin decided to take 2 math classes in a year so she could take AP calculus as a senior, so I thought I would do that as well. The principal at the time blocked me from doing it and didn't give a reason. I just couldn't do it. The extent of math I use in my job doesn't involve calculus, but I'm still salty. School officials would often argue with and even convince me that they were better judges of my abilities than I was. In middle school I wanted to take algebra instead of pre-algebra and was told I couldn't handle it. This meant I was unable to even try to test into a reputable magnet school. In high school I was put into an advanced AP-BC calculus class. I was told to just try it out anyways and see how it goes. Well, it didn't go well because I had to drop out halfway through the year and try the less advanced class. Only I failed that too because I couldn't keep up with anything in the more advanced one. In community college I wanted to take a calc-based physics class. I had to get approval for it, only the dean of physics refused to sign because he said I couldn't handle it. I later went on to get my bachelor's in physics. In state college my final semester, I wanted to take over 18 credits so I could graduate on time. Only my advisor refused to let me because he said I couldn't handle the workload. Also, the class that pushed me over was Intro to University Life. In grad school I tried taking a 1-credit course that was only required for PhD students, only I couldn't because, well, for reasons that I still don't understand. Now I'm getting ready to defend my masters, and instead of moving on to the PhD program like planned, I'm ready to just say fuck it to academia once and for all. It's America. Attempting to pay for a postgraduate degree would have put me in well over $10,000 worth of debt. I couldn't afford it. Holy shit, in many ways. 1. There were the favorites who could perform worse and still got the expected grade, and if that wasn't bad enough, someone from non-favorites could do a better job and got a worse grade. Experienced that myself, because I was the kid who didn't give a fuck and didn't fit in. Never had any issues with decent grades, though. 2. They made me hate books. What they chose was completely retarded and not made for my age back then. We couldn't understand shit and we only read less and less and started using briefs. I'm thankful that I've bought a few books on my own, and I know books can be very interesting and simply good. If I had decided against it because the school experience, I would still be living in a lie to this very day thinking books suck. 3. Knowledge was very theoretical. 90% was learned by text, definitions, calculations. What you often see in movies when kids go to school, have lessons like chemistry, and do the experiments or the teacher doesn't show stuff. For me it's just a fairy tale. We barely had any practical assignments, and if there was some experiment it was a big wow, because it happened maybe once a semester, /6 months. Made us feel bored about everything. Thankfully in college we had way more laboratory classes. 4. Turned out that a good college expected the knowledge from us they told we should have been taught in high schools. Only the ones from the best high schools were. Most of us had to catch up somehow. So the program in high school was fucked up in a way. Something like that. Thank God all the spare time we spent on partying, so it was a great time. Public school counselor guided me towards automotive and basic classes because I blew off some early standardized tests and was not college material. After joining the military, was sent to nursing school, Dean's List and honor grad, and ended up in the specialty of cardiac electrophysiology. Left nursing, run my own business these days, and make a hell of a lot more than a high school guidance counselor. Didn't encourage a lot of independent thought, especially in history class, mostly taught by coaches. I get that there's only so much time to go through the curriculum, but a few projects related to individual interests would have gone a long way to make history class more engaging. In fact, I think history's got the potential to be a favorite class for a lot of students if the approach to teaching were different, at least where I am. I have a mental disorder making it difficult for me to do computational math in my head, but I grasp conceptual math very well. In school I was driven away from the mathematics world because you won't have a calculator in college/the real world. Had I not been, I probably would have pursued a proper higher education and not gone for an art degree. Don't get me wrong, I like my current field, but I think I would have gotten more out of life had I not been pushed away and had ended up as an architect, engineer, or physicist. School didn't teach me to try and get better at anything. They just taught us to separate the kids that were good at something from the kids that weren't, and then move on. Take gym class for example. If we were in the basketball unit we were all just thrown together, and the kids that were already good at basketball just destroyed kids like me, and I didn't even want to try anymore. Do you think that taught me a healthy love of competition? Or that if I worked hard I could get better at something? No. It just reinforced the idea that they were good at it, I was bad at it, and that was the way it is. Imagine if instead I had been shown how to dribble or shoot. I had my technique adjusted by someone and been allowed to practice. By the end I might not be as good as the jock kids, but at least I went from not even being able to dribble to being able to. I would have been shown that with hard work and practice I could at least get better at something. Unfortunately that never happened, and to this day, if I'm not immediately good at something I have to fight really hard to not want to just quit. Didn't give me a hamburger, instead I got a chicken patty. It required me to show up. God, I hated that.